All right, let's get right into it. Back in 2017, this thing from another star system came tumbling through ours, and it left behind a lot of baffled scientists and one single really radical idea. So today we're going to unpack that mystery, the story of Oumuamua and the wild theory that it wasn't just a rock, but maybe a message.
This quote, this is really the heart of the whole thing. It's a challenge to just look beyond what you expect to see. When every normal, natural theory you have just completely falls apart, maybe, just maybe, the real answer is something far more extraordinary.
So the whole story kicks off with the arrival of this object, One-Eye Oumuamua. Now, this was a huge deal, the very first interstellar object we'd ever seen up close, and almost immediately it started giving astronomers a massive headache.
And here's why. The core problem was that the data just didn't add up at all. It wasn't acting like a comet, but it also wasn't acting like an asteroid. It was breaking all the rules, and it sent scientists scrambling for any kind of explanation.
And oh, did they scramble. I mean, they were throwing everything at the wall. Maybe it was a chunk of frozen hydrogen, something that probably shouldn't even exist. Or what about a nitrogen iceberg that got chipped off a planet like Pluto? Or maybe it was just a giant, fluffy space dust bunny. Seriously. But every single one of these theories seemed to require, bending the laws of physics, or inventing completely new types of objects we've never seen. They were all basically dead ends.
So, in the middle of all this confusion, one astronomer, Professor Avi Loeb, stepped forward with what he called a shockingly simple and, elegant alternative. What if the answer wasn't natural at all?
Okay, this right here is the absolute key piece of evidence. As Oumuamua was leaving our solar system, it started to speed up. It was getting a little push from something that wasn't the sun's gravity. Now, for a comet, that push is pretty straightforward. It's ice turning into gas, shooting out like a messy rocket engine. But here's the thing, Oumuamua had no tail, no gas, no dust, nothing.
Right. A comet's push is chaotic, it's messy, it's unpredictable. But Oumuamua's acceleration? It was perfectly smooth. It pointed directly away from the sun, and the force faded perfectly with distance, just like you'd expect from a physics textbook. This wasn't the signature of gas sputtering off a rock, no way. This was the signature of something else entirely.
So here's the kicker. Professor Loeb suggested that the push was coming from the pressure of sunlight itself. Yeah, you heard that right. Photons, the actual particles of light, were physically pushing this object along. But for that to happen, the object couldn't be a normal rock. It had to be impossibly thin and wide, with a huge surface area and almost no mass. In other words, a light sail.
The way this thing moved was one giant clue, but its shape, that was a whole other can of worms. The evidence wasn't just in how it moved, but in its very form.
Just from the way its brightness changed as it tumbled end over end, astronomers figured it had to have a truly extreme shape. We're talking at least 5 to 10 times longer than it was wide. So think less like a space potato and more like a flat pancake or a wafer being seen from its edge.
And this is just such a powerful idea. Think about it. Nature, with gravity and erosion and all that, tends to tumble things into spheres. But technology doesn't care about that. It creates efficient, non-spherical shapes for a specific purpose. Its form becomes a signature of intent.
And when you look at Oumuamua, it had all the hallmarks of design. That extreme shape was perfect for maximizing surface area to catch that push from the light while minimizing its mass. A natural rock that thin and that wide just shouldn't be able to survive a trip between the stars. Its geometry was pointing straight toward deliberate engineering.
Of course, the moment you say alien technology, I know what you're thinking. The big question pops up, right? If it was some kind of craft, why didn't it say hello? Why was there just profound silence?
And look, that's the biggest counterargument, and it's a totally fair one. We pointed our most powerful radio telescopes at it, and all we heard back was static, nothing. But the artifacts hypothesis has a really interesting way of reframing this. It treats the silence not as a lack of evidence, but as a clue in itself.
So there are 3 really compelling possibilities here. 1, it was just space junk, a dead piece of tech, a derelict buoy tumbling through the void with its mission over long ago. 2, its builders use communication we can't even begin to understand. We're sitting here listening for radio waves while they could be using something like quantum entanglement. And then there's option 3, which is kind of chilling. Maybe it was an active probe and being silent was the entire point.
You don't announce yourself when you're just there to observe.
So you see, the silence doesn't kill the theory at all. In fact, it might just elevate it. It suggests an intelligence so different from us, so advanced, that its presence is defined by graceful, silent movement, not by a bunch of noisy chatter.
But the whole debate over Oumuamua actually goes way deeper than just physics and data. According to the source material we're looking at, the controversy itself reveals something profound about us. It's a challenge to our own consciousness and how we deal with something truly deeply unknown. The source material uses this really fascinating yogic model to frame how we react. It suggests our ego, which is linked to the Manipura or solar plexus chakra, just resists the idea. It's a threat to our status as the top dog. But if we can approach it from a place of compassion, the Anahata or heart chakra, we can open up to the idea of galactic coexistence. And finally, through our intuition, the Ajna or third eye chakra, we might be able to just see the intention behind its design.
Another way to look at it is through brain waves. That stressed, orthodox scramble for a familiar, natural explanation, you could call that beta wave thinking. It's our default, analytical, problem-solving state. But to really, truly entertain a radical idea like this one, that might require a shift into theta waves, a more relaxed, creative state that's associated with deep contemplation and sudden insight.
At the end of the day, you can almost see the entire Oumuamua event as a kind of cosmic meditation exercise. It's like the universe is forcing our entire species to take a deep breath, one designed to expand our thinking beyond what's comfortable and familiar and to push the very limits of our consciousness.
And that kind of leaves us with a final question, not really about the stars, but about ourselves. Just like Oumuamua's silent path might have spoken volumes, what's the quiet evidence in your own life? What unspoken behavior or subtle truth is sending a message that's way deeper than anything you actually say out loud? It's a good reminder that sometimes the deepest truths, they're found not in the noise, but in the silence.